Hey folks, welcome back to the Mañana No Mas podcast. I am Kurt Van Anen, your host of the Mañana No Mas podcast and everything online that's Mañana No Mas. And today I'm absolutely thrilled. I've got Andrew Eggleton with us. I hope I said his last name right. If not, I'm sure he'll correct me. I met Andrew in person. And so this to me is a real treat. He's from Australia and he came up and he talked in Pasadena. And I'm going to just cross the line right now and say that his presentation style was so polarly different than my own that it grabbed my attention. And he is a phenomenal teacher on how to be the best at presenting. And he blew me away with what he could do. And the chance that he would even speak on the podcast and share and add some value to our readers and listeners now is just fantastic. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Andrew to the podcast. And Andrew, if you would, give us a little bit of something about yourself.
Thanks, Kurt. Really nice to be here. I need to ask you, now that you've mentioned that, I'd love to know what stood out for you that was polarizing or different about my presentation in Pasadena. Now that you've piqued my interest, I'm like, what? Just feed my ego a little bit. Just feed it at the beginning. Like, what happened?
Well, I'm an excitable guy, and anyone that's taken any power sports training from me will tell you, oh, Kurt's an idiot. Like, you know, I'll dance, I'll sing, I'll do whatever, right? So that, you know, be your authentic self was never a problem for me in the presenting space. But almost like in the paragraph you shared with me about your style, I was more of a copy and paste, bullet point. I had to make sure I got the facts in. I was talking about technical stuff, like how the, you know, the shift assist works on a Panigale, how wheelie control works, how, you know, and then you get stuck in those moments where you're overly technical and you're too serious, or you are, it's not engaging enough, right? Or you're not your authentic self. In a true piece of transparency, I fought to not get out of my seat during your presentation in Pasadena, but I had just gotten this really cool water bottle from Suzuki and drank way too much water before your talk. I had to go to the restroom. So I had tears in my eyes. I'm getting up. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to pee myself. And I go out to the restroom. When I came back, the door was locked. And I was like, well, they must be doing something serious. Jake's doing it right. He's got the door locked. And I'm talking about Jake Ballentine, for those of you that aren't aware. So Jake sticks his head out. Now there's 3 or 4 of us out in the hallway, right? And he sticks his head and he goes, why is the door locked? I said, I thought you locked the door. I thought you were doing your job. And he goes, no. And, you know, I said, dude, can we come back in? And he goes, yeah, come in, just be quiet. Andrew, I walked in the room, and when I walked in, the lights were out. People were laying down on the floor. And you were like, as your eyes are closed, you're seeing your audience, you're seeing the stage. This is your perfect situation. This is your dream stage. This is what you're doing. You know, how do you feel right now? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is so not me. What is happening in here? And then, dude, 5 minutes later, the lights were on, people got off the floor, and grown men had tears in their eyes. Like, and I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, this on the surface is not my thing, but what is it about you presenting and talking about emotions and how do you feel and what is your moment? And you made it very personable. Not personable, personal, right? And me doing technical training, I wasn't making things that personal, you know, even when I consult dealerships now. And so, you know, and remember, this is supposed to be a podcast about you, not me, but, you know, it's about you. I was just blown away. And I think about some of the folks that were in the room. Greg Kettner, the comedian, was there. Tessa, she does real estate and a couple other things. Suki was there. She helps disadvantaged people read or something like that. You know, dude, these people got up crying, and it was probably the most meaningful 45 minutes of the year for these people, especially considering the COVID crisis that happened shortly after. So that was one of the last, you know, human contact, personal face-to-face handshake, hugs, experiences that group of people had before going into lockdown. And when you think of it in those terms, it's like, man, what an impact. And so, dude, I signed up for your 10-day Facebook challenge. I researched your website. I mean, I looked at a bunch of stuff, and you're the reason why people can see my garage now behind me instead of a green screen, because I need to be my authentic self. I'm a 2-wheeled freak. I ride everything with 2 wheels, bicycles, motorcycles, everything. And it's like, if that's what I do, that's what people should see.
Mm. It's really interesting. If I could take it from here, Kurt, and just
Yeah.
add another layer. I mean, the style of presenting I created was to get away from the copy and paste approach, which is the technical approach, which you've been mentioning. And it's how do we step into that, into the heart brain, where we're talking more about feeling than the technical. And I also focus just as much on the space in between the words. I think that's just as potent as the words themselves. And when we get to speak from the heart brain and we know how to do that, we end up speaking with words that match the frequency of our greatness. And I know that can sound a bit woo-woo right at the beginning, but when you understand, and I'll try and explain it in more detail. So what you're seeing when you came in and saw that exercise, and I call that Amplifier Moment, when we see and feel something, and that represents the greatest version of ourselves, like the version of which we just constantly are going, I know that person exists. I'll speak in the male tense because we're a couple of guys here, but when we see the greatest version of ourselves, and you see what they're doing, what they're wearing, how they behave, how they act, what they're thinking, in a way, what they're thinking, you can't take that away. Once you've seen it, you can't remove that picture and that feeling. And so my job is my methodology, my 5-step methodology, which has taken me 27 years to get to this point, is totally based around each step taking them. It's like a step taking you further into the greatest version of yourself when you're presenting. Now, the Amplify Your Moment exercise is, I built that music with a 3 crescendos in it, and I literally just lead people and drop seeds. I do the talking. All they have to do is let their imagination run wild. And you're painting a picture of that one moment in their lives where they've probably imagined it, they've never got really clear on it, but they sit in that space. And you're on stage, you've got the amount of people in the audience that you've always wanted, you're speaking on point, you can see what you're wearing, you can see who else might be on stage with you, and this is the stuff where you start imagining these people. You imagine the bright lights, you imagine the standing ovation, you imagine how you hold yourself on that stage, and because your current self doesn't have it, or else your current self would have it. So you're going to go, what version of myself, what greatest version of myself am I seeing? And then your job is simply to step into that version of yourself, which takes time. We've got all these little things that keep us in, that we were talking about fear earlier, our fears. But if you keep marching towards that greatest version of yourself, if you keep asking yourself, how does he act and react in any given moment, and you start taking those actions and reactions instead of your current actions, reactions, you'll become that. And since I started doing that and developing this myself, my business, my speaking business just blew up. I went from moving to Melbourne in 2017 and going, I'm going to give this presenting teaching a bit of a go. By the end of the next year, by the end of 2018, I had done a world tour and 3 retreats. And I was like, whoa, this is moving really fast.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
By 2019, I did 2 world tours, New York and London and New Zealand and Australia. I did a retreat in Portugal. I think it was 3 retreats in Bali. I did a retreat in Austria. It was just on. And I discovered that my capacity was way beyond where I thought it was. Like I just kept on thinking, if I want to play in that top 5% of the world, what do they do? Like, what are they prepared to do that I keep cutting short on right now? But it just had to constantly refine my thinking and stop acting as if my current self would now, like out of fear or out of old emotions. Do you know what I mean? Like making decisions from old Andrew, which was going to give me old Andrew again tomorrow?
It's like, for me, I lost a bunch of weight. I used to be bigger. And one of the things that you do now when you're smaller is you'll wear the vest with the weights in it, you know, the ruck thing.
Yep.
I picture what you say as almost being like that. It's like, how difficult is it to drop 50, 60, 80 pounds and then strap 50 pounds on yourself after you've lost the weight and go run a mile, right?
Mm.
And it's sometimes you just got to drop the weight and you got to get rid of those old emotions and you got to push through.
What does it, you go, what does it take? Like that person that's lost 50 pounds, what's their discipline, their focus, their behaviors, their actions and reactions? And what's the disparity between that guy that's lost 50 pounds and the guy that is sitting there going, I don't know how to do this. You just go, what's required of me? And some of it's so simple. You have to go to I'm just making this up, but you must non-negotiate gym once a day, like 6 days a week, non-negotiable, go to the gym.
Yeah.
5 days a week, go for a walk, ease into a run. Non-negotiable, no sugar, non-negotiable. And then if I keep making those decisions and not negotiating with myself, I will become that man. And then you know, it's like you get 2 months down the track and go, holy shit, this has happened.
Yeah, it's working.
And it's the same with everything. We touched on this sort of before we got into this podcast of most of the time, well, I see most people, their goals or the experience that they'd like to create for their lives. And this is all I did last year, the last 2 years, was what experiences do I want to have in my life and how do I create them? And then I would go ask myself, what are the characteristics and how does Andrew behave to create those experiences? And this is that pinch myself moment where I hired a village in the middle of the mountains in Portugal, and there's people flying in from South Africa and USA and Australia and New Zealand and Netherlands, and you pinch myself going, how did these people trust me to get on a plane, fly from South Africa and land here, me pick them up at the airport, and then trust me for the next 5 days to deliver the week from that they never saw coming and just knock the ball out of the park? It's that change of thinking. And going back to the point was there, if your goals and the experiences you want in your life don't match your behaviors, if there's conflict, if there's contradiction, if there's disparity, like if you're not willing to change parts of your life, but all you're willing to do is change the vision, like, I want a house in Greece and a house in Australia. Okay, great goal. Are you willing to change anything in your life? No. Okay, cool. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I don't want to skip past things because you've already mentioned a couple of buzz things that I want to get into, right? You had mentioned becoming your best self, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember when you were teaching that, one of the keys was, don't be a copycat. Don't be an imposter. It's not about imitating other successful people that got there. It's being yourself. And then I found some of that truth that you talk about, that greatness, it came from owning the space in between the words. Right. And so, and that whole, we forget what we know, or we forget what other people don't know kind of thing. That whole thing where you tell people own the space between the words, that's amazing. It's okay to be quiet. It's okay to let people go, huh? And I was raised in Philadelphia. So when I moved from Philadelphia to Colorado, people couldn't understand what I was saying sometimes because I spoke so fast. That East Coast, boom, 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 got to get stuff done. And I had to gear back. And then I lived in New Mexico for a while and I had to gear back. And then I moved to California. Oh my goodness, I had to gear back, right? So it's like, you get to where you're like, wow, if I really want to communicate with people, one of my favorite authors is John Maxwell. And John Maxwell has a book called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And it's like all those years I was communicating, but I was failing to connect at the level I wanted to connect on. And I think after spending some time with you and Jake and the group and then, experimenting with this online stuff and the COVID crisis and making more live content, I feel like more of it is coming full circle. And it's like, okay, I feel like I'm finally, that whole disparity in our own, like when we talk about clients, You know, maybe I thought I was up here. Maybe I really was down here back in January, February, right? But through this process and through making the lives and the podcasts, I feel that things have come around a little bit.
Super interesting. You're talking about connection, and connection for me, I think really can only come when you're in the heart brain. And just so people understand too, when I'm talking about the heart brain, I'm not talking about, hey, I speak from my heart and my heart's on my sleeve and I'll just tell you what it is on my mind. That's not heart brain. That's unorganized and unprofessional. And there's a massive difference. And this is, of course, when I start teaching people, they'll go, oh, you'd be really proud of me, Andrew. I did a video from the heart yesterday, and I watch it, and they're like, oh my God, they're in their pajamas, hair curlers in. And I'm like, I was just so authentic. I'm like, no, that's just unprofessional.
That's just lazy.
And it's just like, it is. Heart brain is. So the technical, think of the technical as the brain, right? The technical is your stored information. It's your stored words, your articulation, your knowledge that you've obtained already and held there. It's the points. It's like knowing these are the points I'm going to make over my presentation. Now, you should know this stuff by the back of your hand. Like I over prepare for presentations, right? That's just how I go about it. So then I can let go. I'm not on stage going, what's next, what's next, what's next? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I know this stuff inside out. Then I'm allowed to get into my heart brain. Okay. And that's going to help me navigate through this presentation. My heart brain is, what is the state that I'm in today? That first of all, we're talking about authenticity. Authenticity is, how are you feeling today? Like legit, like how are you feeling? And every day, if not every day, morning, afternoon, evening, there's a different state going on. And sometimes you roll out of bed and you're like, oh, shit, I'm in a really jovial, good mood today. And sometimes you're like, what the hell happened in my sleep last night? I feel like, the Grim Reaper this morning. And each of those states we really need to take aboard. Each of those states is just as good as the other for your presenting. And this is what people don't realize. They think that they have to be in this great state of mind to present, which is kind of impossible considering our human nature, right?
Yeah.
So if you think of every state as our gift, you wake up in the morning, sometimes you're heavy, sometimes you're melancholic, sometimes you're joyful or happy. You're just like, oh my God, I'm super funny today, I think. But all of these states is authenticity. So when I go and do a video or I go on stage, I don't need to change my state. I know that the state today is my gift. My job is just not to judge it, to be wrong or right or positive or negative. I'm like, this is just the state I'm in. I'm feeling a bit deeper and introverted and melancholic today. Cool. So how is that now going to affect my chosen topic? So if I'm getting into I'm still going to be on point, right? I'm still going to be on point. But on those points, that frequency that I'm in today, because that's your heart brain, we're talking frequencies. If you're authentic, you'll stay from the beginning and work moment to moment. You'll work from that frequency that you are in. And if it's melancholic or deeper, and we're choosing our words from the heart brain, so we're choosing words that match the frequency that we're in today, those words are going to be very different than what we would choose from a different frequency. And this is the magic of the heart brain. You start speaking in language and finding words and ideas and sentences, and you go, where is this shit coming from? Like this, I would never have articulated this topic like this yesterday. And you'll never articulate this topic probably again the same way, but that is the joy or the impact of pure authenticity, because those words you're choosing are matching your frequency. And because they're matching your frequency, they have more weight to them. And if they have more weight to them, they're going to connect with your audience at a whole different level. Like they're going to feel those words instead of just words of going, I've recited this 100 times, or this is what I know. I just say this sentence here. Instead of going, how do I really want to articulate this right now? from the state that I'm in. It doesn't mean if you're in a negative or down or irrespective or something heavier mood, you're not being grumpy or negative. You're just choosing words that are going to be very different than another state. Which means if you think about it, if you're on tour or doing videos every day, your videos are always going to have a different feel, always on point, but different language, and language that matches the essence. It's got the essence of you attached to it. Kurt, that was pretty deep. I hope we didn't lose people.
Well, I don't think we're going to lose folks. And it's such a good topic. I mean, honestly, if I look at who I work with, who I help, who a lot of my listeners are, a lot of it makes sense. I mean, think about it this way. If they're running a motorcycle dealership, how they address people and their state of the day can alter how they make a sale, right? I have authors that listen. I have people that have published books that jump on, that go out and do their talks and stuff. So this is phenomenal stuff. When you're doing your thing, like, so, you know, it's great that you're adding value to us and you're talking about the heart, brain, and going into some of your details, but what are some goals for you? Like what are some things that you're working on currently?
Well, as you can imagine, I mean, the last time my goals changed a week after I saw you in Pasadena, and I knew some really heavy shit was happening when we walked through LAX with no one else around in the airport, heading back to Melbourne, and we're like, oh man, okay, this is happening. And we went into lockdown, I mean, the week that we returned, and I had probably a week's worth of meltdown. Of, you know, I had to cancel all my retreats. I had to cancel my New York workshop, my LA workshop, my London, Mexico retreats, Bali retreats. It was like a massive shock. It's like everything that I've been working for and the experiences I was going to have are gone. So what am I going to do? And then I went and hired a place on a golf course out on near the ocean, and I threw my toys for a couple of days, and then I just came back to, you got to man up. Like what's happening here? What are you going to do? What's the other thing? What other things bring you joy? And I'm like, well, of course, presenting to camera. I mean, that's like my first passion. That's where I learned this in the craft of TV presenting. So it's completely changed, Kurt. And it's having to give yourself a whole new reason for doing what it is that you do. Like my reward before was amazing experiences. You know, I'd work my ass off to build a retreat. I'd run the retreat, and then I'd have 2 weeks off in Greece by the ocean and chill out. And I'd think about the next thing, next retreat, when I was ready. Do you know what I mean? It was always big days, work to an experience, have the most amazing experience with amazing people, and then off. So it would almost be like big build up and then pinch myself moments. I remember after the Austria retreat last year, we spent a week there, and it was just saunas, steam baths, cold plunge pools, and wine and mountain views. And I just remember going, oh my God, my life's amazing. Oh my God, I've created an amazing life. And then this year was like chopped off at the knees and going, yeah, but you can't have that now. So now what? So my thing now is going, what brings me joy? What brings me joy? The one thing is mastery. Like, how good can I get at what it is that I do? How good can I get at what it is? So I've had 2 really life-defining moments in the last 2 years. 2 years. The first one was do you know understand clear cognizance?
You should probably describe it. I don't want to lie.
Clear cognizance is when you have an absolute knowing. There is no room for doubt. It just happens, and you go, I know this to be true and happening. And I was sitting at a French cafe with the mother of my soon-to-be-born child next week. And it's going, my life's about to change. And I just had this feeling, and this feeling moved up from, it's funny when I tell this on stage because I kind of point to my base chakra, but the feeling just hit me. It just moved up my body from nowhere. I'm like, whew, and it was a big, warm, engulfing, overwhelming feeling, but nothing nasty or didn't, it was just like, woof, and then within seconds, I'm just crying at the table. No, by the way, no alcohol, nothing, haven't touched, just sat down. And it like a side swipe. And I'm sitting there just going, woof. And Danny goes, "You okay?" And I mean, "Yep, I'm fine." And then she gave me a bit of time to breathe. And I was like, oof, wow, that was intense. And she goes, "What happened?" And I just went, I just knew, like, that feeling was clear. It just left me with this in my head: you're going to be the best in the world at what you do. And of course, once that sat there, from moving on from there, I never have had to worry about not being successful or not make it. Or I've always, now I just know, like I'm like, just keep pursuing mastery, man. Like you're gonna be fine. Do you know what I mean? It's taken the what if or plan B or what if I don't make it out. It's eliminated all that. The next one was the week we got into lockdown, and then by April, the thought of lockdown, no family around because my family doesn't live in Australia. They live in New Zealand and London. And I thought lockdown, winter in Melbourne, baby coming, 1-bedroom apartment. I woke up one morning in a panic attack and just turned around to Danny and went, "Danny, we're moving."
We're moving.
Goes, "What? When?" I was like, "As soon as I find a place, which will be today." And so I got online, found a place, we moved the next week. 5-day road trip up to the other side of Australia. And oh my God, I don't regret it, because as you know, you might know, Victoria's in lockdown again, just as I predicted. But the day before we moved, I had this dream late in the morning, and I don't know if it's PC or not, but this dwarf was standing beside the bed, and the dwarf says to me, "Don't leave it too late," and walks off. And then just to rub it in, just to make sure that I was listening and didn't shake it off, the dwarf stops at the door and looks back at me and gives me that look, "Are you listening?" And then closes the door. And I woke up and I've got it written down right in front of me here: "Don't leave it too late." And this is my driver, is I have this amazing project that I've been working on of doing what it is that I do, what you saw, right? But times that by 2 days. And then having an orchestra around me where my voice and the power of, I guess, my energy and my voice leaves off, the orchestra will keep people going. So it's to take people through that glass ceiling of what it is that they're feeling. Yeah. And really cement that in over a couple of days. So I'm working on that at the moment as well. So it's mastery in my symphony.
That is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And you're going to be a dad.
Yeah. What else are we to do? I found myself, I don't know about you, Kurt, but I found myself getting really busy once the pandemic started, and just busy spot fires with clients, clients freaking out, and I've done a fair bit of work in the last couple of months, just eliminating people in my vicinity who are looking for more than just me presenting. So removing the stuff of, "I need you to fix me." I'm like, fixing me is draining me. So I've eliminated those fix me people. And I'm like, I just want to work with people who want to take themselves to another level, and they don't need me to motivate them. Because honestly, I don't need a mentor to motivate me. That's my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my job. If I can't figure out why I'm getting out of bed, man, I've got bigger problems than just my job. So yeah, it's the, why am I excited? I mean, I've got joy on my arm here. What's going to bring me joy? And then removing the getting busy because of the pandemic, and like just bringing in people and going, "Oh, let's thrive and not survive," and then just go, "Hold on. What if you were just to make an amount of money that was good? That's fine. It looks after the family. It's still a healthy income, but remove all the other distractions and just focus on this project that's going to bring you immense joy." Now, if this brings me immense joy, it's also going to bring me immense abundance if I really get stuck into it. Otherwise, I think we get to the other side of this pandemic, whenever the hell that is, in a year or 2 years. I mean, none of us know, which is scary. And you go, I actually didn't do anything. Like I just kept coaching. And I didn't use that time. It was like I actually feel exhausted. And none of us can keep working without taking breaks and nourishment and holidays and just some time out with family and nourishing ourselves up, because it can be very taxing what we do right now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think people realize how taxed we are or taxing this is.
You know, from my personal experience, I can tell you that my job at Suzuki, corporate job, 40 hours a week, was not very stressful. I mean, it was a management level job and I was in charge of people but it was the first job I ever had as an adult where I worked 40 hours a week. Every other job before that was 60, 70, you know, and travel crazy, right? When I was the trainer for Ducati, I averaged 79 hours a week for 4 years, and I traveled 210 days my last year on the job there, right? So then I go to Suzuki, and I was working 40 hours a week. It took me months to get used to the idea that at 5 o'clock, people turned off their laptops, stood up, and walked out. Like, it blew my mind. COVID happens. People get sent home. People are laid off. They're furloughed. All these things are going on. And I found myself in a similar thing to what you described. I found myself busy. Different manufacturers had reached out to me and said, oh, hey, you're the expert on fixed operations. Can you write us a sample? Can you do this? I had a travel company reach out to me and say, can you help us with a travel website? So I made them a sample, boom, boom, boom. And I found myself giving myself these fictitious deadlines and this self-imposed, not stress or anxiety, but you know what I mean? I'm a results driven person. And my joy, right, is I love to create things. And so people were giving me the opportunities to create, but there was no paycheck on the back end of it, you know, and I was losing precious time with family, and it was like I was selfishly keeping myself busy instead of being effective. It was like working on the urgent and not the important.
Yes.
So then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know, I've already got one published book. I got a second one that's written. It just needs formats and graphics. Like, why have I not finished that? Like, I've got to do that. I've got, you know, there's so many things that can add value to other people other than putting out the fires you described. And thing that, you know, I know that you say, you know, this would bring me joy, but I think the part that would bring you joy is you envision the value that you'll add to others through that project. Right.
100%.
And you look at that and you go, I can't miss that opportunity because of who I can affect, of the impact I could have on others while doing what I love to do. And I'm in a very similar space. I've got to reduce some of this superfluous busyness and go, wait a minute, you know, I don't want to be lazy and sit and binge Netflix and eat bonbons.
Yeah.
But I don't need to take every Zoom meeting that comes my way either. Right. So I've actually been practicing the art of saying no and telling folks, I'm sorry, that's not in my wheelhouse right now. You know, maybe we can try it again and take another stab at it later, and just focusing on what's important, you know?
It's nice. I'm not sure about you. I've really just been able to refine my skills and refine who I work with. And I actually laid down this foundation. I call it it's just a level, a bar of which is an indicator of whether or not I will give my time or not. So I have this fixed rule with my clients. You have to be practicing at least 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day, you will get some improvement. Do you know what I mean? And what happens when you do 5 minutes a day is you end up doing 10, 15, 20, sometimes more. But that 5 minutes a day means you'll get to that 50th practice where a penny drops. And you go, oh my God. And you go, I'm not getting many penny drops. You go, yeah, but it takes 50 to get there. So you've done your 50 times 5 minutes, you've earned the reward of a penny drop. And above that 5 minutes, you start to become good. You know, you start to improve and go, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like
Yeah.
I'm moving forward. I'm attracting different people. I'm articulating differently. And then above that, people really start to see how you can get mastery. We're talking years and years, maybe decades, but you'll really see the reward happening under that 5 minute mark. So if a client asks me, can I have some of your time? And I'm like, can you tell me how many minutes have you practiced this week? And if it's under the 5 minutes a week, I can simply say, no, you know the rules.
Yeah.
I love it. You know the rules. 5 minutes, under 5 minutes is then you've got the people who just turn up to your calls, but don't do anything.
Yep.
It's like, Andrew, I'm paying for this information, but nothing's happening. You're going, are you doing anything? Like, what do you mean? Like, outside of the calls, are you doing any of the implementation? Like, I can tell you how to ride a motorbike, right? In theory, I can tell you where everything is and the weight and all the little details. But unless you're out riding a motorbike, at least 5 minutes a day, you're going to be really shit riding a motorbike. And it's going to be the same after a year or 2 years.
I can't ride a motorbike for just 5 minutes, man.
No, I love motorbikes too. Yeah, I got a motorbike in Bali, and I haven't seen it in a year because obviously I can't get there.
So you were talking about helping people get to mastery, and this is a question that I wanna ask you, and I probably didn't prep you with this, so if I catch you off guard, I apologize. But in my line of training, it's so important to track the progress, because people don't recognize the progress. They keep thinking they're not getting it, and sometimes I have to remind them and go, wait a minute, let's take a look at that snapshot or that report we pulled last April, and let's take a look at where you are now. Is there growth? And they'll go, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize it. And you're like, you're getting there. It's just, you're constantly telling yourself you're not there yet. And you're thinking you're not making progress when you are. It's like the 4 stages of competence, right? There's every time someone starts a new job, they're unknowingly incompetent, right? And then they become knowingly incompetent, right? But they finally realize, crap, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And then they become unknowingly competent, right? And that's where they're like, they still think they suck, and everyone else around them is going, man, this guy's getting it. This guy's getting it. And then it could be years where the mastery kicks in, right? Where you become knowingly competent. You're like, I got this crap dialed. And then you get bored, you get a new job and start all over again.
Do you know what mastery to me is? When, for me, when I really started, my awareness of mastery was the day I woke up and I was sitting at my desk and working, and I just had this epiphany that I knew nothing. It was like, oh my God, I don't know. Must have been like a 24-year mark. I mean, 24 years, and there's so much to learn, and I'm only at the beginning. That was when that was when my whole appreciation for mastery changed, because I now liken mastery to an infinite piece of rope. And for me, I mean, I talked about this being my driver when I get up at the moment, is the earlier I get up, the more I work on this, the more down that infinite piece of rope I'm going to get. So I'm working my way down this infinite piece of rope. And every day that I struggle to get out of bed, I'll simply go, yeah, but what are you missing out on today? What little piece of information or tool is going to move you closer to mastery? And it's when you realize mastery, then you start to realize too, you're always the student. You're always a student, and I love that. And it's completely the opposite of me going, I'm just going to use you as an example. This is not a true example, obviously. But hey, Kurt, how's your presenter going? Yeah, I'm great. No, I'm really confident. I don't need any help. And then I look at your video and go, oh my God, no, bro, you need my help. But you have no awareness of it, right? In your head, you're like really good. But from a person and from the point of mastery, you've become, your DNA is in the craft now. Like your footprint is in the craft. So when you watch sports stars and you're like, they are just, their DNA is in that sport so much. Like the Jordans and I'm just thinking of the Picassos and the people who are so in their craft that the craft is them, like it becomes one. Whereas there's the other people who just don't practice or don't want to put that time in, and now I'm really good at what I do, and you go, wow, like where does that delusion come from?
Yeah, because you got a long way to go. I raced motorcycles for about 20 years. And the thing that's really cool about the sport of racing is it's not like football, rugby, soccer. It's if you get amateur level, you can end up in the same riders meeting with world champions. And you're in that group, right? And I can remember the surreal experience. I was in Formula USA. It was a national racing series. It was a pro level, and I'm not that fast. So it was kind of amazing. I get there and I'm with, Miguel Duhamel, Doug Poland, Chandler, and I'm saying old names because I'm old, right? And so these guys had been to MotoGP before MotoGP it was 500 GP at the time, right? These were, Mick Doohan level people. These were gods in my sport. And here they are standing right next to me in the riders meeting. And to be that close to people that you view as heroes in something that you have a passion for, that's when the report card comes back. That's when you look at yourself and you're like, oh man, have I got a long way to go.
Yes,
and if you get out into a practice session with these guys right by you, and you're just sitting there, your bike's wide open, and you're thinking, I'm wide open. How come I'm not going that fast? And it's because you didn't carry that extra 50 miles an hour out of the curve. I mean, these guys are that fast. And I sometimes wish that sports like football, soccer, basketball were more like that, where amateur level people could get exposure to the pros and to the experts at that level, because then people would realize, so this is what it takes, right? Because a lot of people don't understand what it takes. They haven't made the internal recognition.
That you hit like a nice little, almost like a nerve. This is something that's changed for me in the last couple of months, and my mentoring now is very different than what it was pre-pandemic, and it's because I've had so much time in one space. Like I'm not on planes, I'm not moving, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm just running. And I realized that some people come to me because they know that I know what it takes, and they're literally, Andrew, I just want you to feel like you can kick my ass and give me the world-class tools, the world-class pieces of the puzzle that make me a world-class presenter. And I'll give it to them. Then there's the other ones who come in and, what we were just talking about, aren't prepared to do the work. And it's the ones who want to play at that level that I love working with. Like that's you, Andrew, you've been there. You've worked on film sets, you've played in the space, you've toured the world, you've done these things in the space. Teach me how it's done. And you go, okay, cool. And no matter where they are, they will graft their way forward. And I love that. That's so satisfying.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. And I've become far more brutal, it's probably the right word, of just telling people you don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
I've been literally, in the last month, been telling people, you need to let that dream go. The dream you told me when we started working together, you need to let it go to get some peace of mind for yourself. Like you're hurting your own sense of self-respect and the happiness of yourself and your family because you have this dream that you're trying to obtain, but you're not willing to do what it takes.
Yeah.
And so therefore you've constantly got this conflict every single day of your dream and you being so far from it, you're getting despondent. So let the dream go or do the work. But that's it, isn't it? It's like, let it go. Like you're not going to be the president of the United States. You're not going to have your own TV show when you're at the moment got nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not going to happen.
And best case scenario is you cut them loose and you give them the inspiration to kick themselves in the butt and prove you wrong, right?
Yes.
That would be that's the best case scenario. Yep. But dude, this is
with mentors, Kurt, in the past. I I look back at the mentors that I've had, and the ones that held me to a level of which I didn't think was possible are the ones I look back and now and go, oh my God, you're the ones who taught me how to play at this in this space. You taught me this is what's required.
Thank goodness for you.
Yeah, thank goodness. The ones who just kept on, you'd write a pitch or a proposal for like a TV show or something, and they just look at it and go, no, start again. You're like, holy shit, but it's 11 o'clock, boss. And they're like, no, start again. You'll leave when it's done. And you're still writing that proposal at 3 a.m. and you're going, I just have to trust this person knows what they're doing. And then I look back and go, oh my God, he taught me what it takes. That's all it was. He just taught me what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me this, Andrew, we're getting on in time. So I want to make sure that, with absolute due diligence and being a good host, how do our readers, listeners, followers, anybody in the Mañana Nomás space, because this thing ends up on the blog site, it ends up on multiple podcast sites, ends up on YouTube. How can this audience reach you if they need to, or how can they get in touch with you or your programs?
Look, I mean, a good place is always the website, which is always, as you know, it's always a perpetual changing piece. It's funny when people go, I can't start my coaching or my work until my website's done. You go, your website is never done. Do you know what I mean? You look back in a few months and you go, how I've grown, that's changed already. Can I be bothered changing? I'll just wait another 3 months. So andreweggleton.com. It's a place to start. And then, of course, I have my Facebook group, which I'm just teaching and giving away my tools and experience, which is the heart of presenting.
Yeah. Now, I follow you on the heart of presenting, and I find it really, really interesting. You've got a nice collection of people in there. You've got it seems like a really good, is holistic the right word? I mean, it's just a great group of people. They all seem to support each other, and it's a really good community you've built in there.
Yeah, I like it. I'm again constantly refining that too. It's just constantly refining. Man, at work is never done, is it?
The work is never done. It's never done.
As long as this weekend's been very poignant. I've been really thinking about that you are the mission. Like the mission is you. It's inside you. The mission is you. And of course, you've got to find constantly listen to that compass and where's it putting, where's it going, and just staying in your own lane. We touched on this earlier, but just stay in your lane and require the tools that keep you moving forward in the direction of your own internal compass.
So for the people that might be coming in late, let me just say the pre-call that I had with Andrew, and at least twice during this podcast, we've talked about an internal drive. We've talked about recognizing what it is that drives you, what gives you joy, how to focus on what's important. Dude, I saw you get super, super animated talking about that earlier. How do you help guide people that you work with to stay focused on something that's that important to them? Or is that totally their thing? Like they need to do it. That's not your thing.
I don't think people realize how powerful they are. Like I'll never, maybe in this lifetime, I'll never understand it. I don't think any of us will really understand it. Some people might say we are God or whatever your beliefs are, but I totally believe we are so powerful, way beyond which we just cannot comprehend. But when you are able to just listen every now, when you get in those zones of like, oh my God, I get it. Yes. Yeah. Listen to that idea. You have to trust those ideas and move forward with them. When that feels that good and that right, you have to take action, even if it is just imperfect action. For example, my symphony, I mean, let's be really honest, it's going to be a fucking mess at the beginning. I don't know anything about it. It'll be a mess. I mean, I might be an out of tune bloody musicians for just out of school. That's all I can afford. But I will learn from that. And at some stage, I will get to the point where I'm standing in front of people that are at the top of their game and going, holy shit, has happened.
Yeah.
But it's just that beginning. So how I keep people on track is I make sure that they're just focusing on the information for them, that they're not grabbing at all this other stuff and changing. And what I tend to see is 1 week someone will turn up and say that this is what I do. And then I'll read some of their social media or something a following week and they go, you've changed what you do again. Oh, yeah, because Brian told me to do this. I'm like, oh my God, stay in your own lane. Stay in your own lane. Absolutely, until it hurts. Stay in your own lane. Otherwise, I think we were talking about it, it's like you're grabbing a whole lot of bits of puzzle and trying to fit all these different puzzles and make it fit.
Make one puzzle.
Up for you to move forward. And all you want is to go, what pieces of the puzzle do I need right now? What do I need? I need this. Right, cool, done. I need this. And just if you know where your compass is pointing, if you know when it's right, you know when it's right. And quite often I discover that, and for me is to when the compass is focusing on the absolute true north, when I get the most stuck, because it's so clear to me what I should be doing, that it'll bring me joy, that it'll bring other people joy, but I'm almost scared to start. Yeah. Because I just go, but if I start, like, where's this going to take me? Like, how much work is this going to involve? And what if this means if I have an idea at 10 p.m.? This happened to me last night. I had a great idea about 11 p.m. And then I tried to block the idea. Because I was like, yeah, but if I start now, it's like, what if this goes all night? Do you know what I mean? And then I woke up this morning like, dude, you were in the sweet spot last night and you should have stayed up all night. Do you know what I mean? And I would have gone to bed like 4 or 5, whatever, and then done this podcast, and I would be sitting here going, dude, I created this last night. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of trying to turn Netflix on like I did and turn my brain off. I was like, don't listen to that idea, block it out. It's interesting. The biggest and the most congruent ideas we have that you're like, this is definitely it, are the ones we tend to try and ignore. Because they're the ones that change your life.
Yeah.
And you don't want to start because you're like, well, where's this going to take me?
I know so many people that have so many crazy good ideas, but turn them off. And it comes from that scarcity mindset instead of that abundance mindset, you know? And I know that you're somebody that chases the abundance mindset, because I remember when you gave the talk in Pasadena and told your story about growing your speaking, right? It was like, wow, man, this guy really goes for it. And that's pretty cool that you can inspire that with other folks.
Yeah. And for anyone who speaks too, I'm sure I told you in Pasadena. And yeah, the first time I ever did live TV, like I would have been, this would have been 1998, 99. And I hounded a TV producer. This is before social media, thank God. And I hounded this producer. This is that delusional person we were talking about earlier. I was going, I'm really good. Like, I'm good. I'm a great presenter. Never had a job, by the way. Yeah. I can do this. Like, just give me a job. I'll nail it. And of course, I get this job, and he finally gives it after 2 years, and he goes, okay, Andrew, we're going to put you on live TV on this segment, and I'm going to pair you up with somebody, because I don't think you've got the skill set to hold this live show by yourself. I'm like, bring it on. Let's do this. And so I turn up. I'm thinking this is my biggest moment. Like, the world is about to see me. Like, get ready. I'm going to change the world with this 30 minutes. And I thought that everything that I said had to be life-changing or poignant or funny. It's a lot of pressure to put on yourself when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I go on, and the lady's name was Miranda, and she hosted it with me. And within 20 minutes, it was such a train wreck. She started crying live on TV. She started crying like I was ruining her show. And she then gets up and she runs out of the studio and closes the door and leaves me anchoring the show, like, and with no skill set, none. Only my ego going, you're really good. But my ego by this time was put into place, into perspective of you.
Yeah.
Dude, you've got no idea what you're doing.
At the
And
worst possible time.
oh, bro, the energy in the room, like the director and the cameraman and the lighting and the assistants and the energy in the room of everybody just like embarrassed for me. And me just on live TV, sitting there, camera on me, and the director just goes, let's cut to a commercial break. And then just going, Andrew, and then just being told, Andrew, I think that's it.
That's it.
And that was my rite of passage. And this is why I tell everybody, whenever you start at something, you will suck. And that is fine. And I've coached Olympic athletes and America's Cup sailors, and they all say the same thing. You always suck at the beginning. But it's just then, how do I get a little bit of improvement every single day? And it all mounts up to that point where next minute they're gold medalists in another sport. You go, wow, we're just amazing sportsmen. It's like, no, that is not the recipe.
Nice. Well, Andrew, I'm going to tell you on behalf of our audience, man, I have really, really appreciated the time and the content you've shared today. I find it amazing. I do. I key into it and it gets me fired up. I thank you so much. And all of the ways to contact Andrew will be in the description of the podcast and the video on YouTube. So with that, Andrew, let's say goodbye to them.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.